test keys and make sure we had everything for tonight, Brian Wall said that there was no custodian staff tonight, so I assumed that meant the rest of the building was closed, so I wasn't going in the front door. I had no idea that the rest of the building was all up to my test keys. So that's why we made sure that this door would be open for everything. I believe parking lot same name. It's not closed.
This is not good.
Right, I'm turning around and going home. That's
This is one of the place for board down.
oh, maybe. This is not a job description, this is just filling the blank.
It's a test.
Here's your
Yeah, calendar timeline 2012.
Yeah, and we looked at that and the salary, I'm thinking, yes, go ahead and knock that this summer.
Joey, I think she can go right down that bookshelf.
Yeah.
Right there behind you and come.
You wanna go another row down?
If not, you have to jump the table.
It's a
Yeah.
nice.
Not really, you have to jump the table.
Call to order. Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Haley? Here. Tony?
Here.
Brian?
Here.
Debbie?
Here.
Dave?
All right. Do you have anyone for public comments?
Okay. Next up, old business, superintendent search, job description. Do you want to kick us off, Patty, or do you want me to?
You go ahead and keep us if you'd like, I believe it's attached to your agenda.
Perfect. Thank you for all these materials. I truly appreciate it. So what I was hoping that we could try to accomplish tonight is the job description. We've got the job description and the process for the superintendent search, so there's 2 items there. Correct me if I'm wrong, we're waiting for Eileen to get back to us.
Correct.
Correct. So I'll open it up with the job description. I don't know if anybody has had an opportunity to be able to look that over and what adjustments they think that we can make.
The one adjustment in your current policy is number 7, under fiscal accountability. And let's put the blame for the credit where it needs to go. And I would suggest that we say that the superintendent assists the business manager in preparing the school budget in a fiscally responsible manner. In as much as without your business manager being able to project all of your salaries and benefits, all of that, your superintendent come up with moving salaries from one year to another, but really and truly, all of that information has to come through your business manager. So we don't want somebody get in there and think that they had to create the whole budget. They couldn't show a very capable finance manager.
Jody, will you be doing the edits for us? So you got that one? I did. Okay, awesome. Any other thoughts? Yeah, John?
I read all this over, and the only thing that I noticed was, we don't really have anything in here. The new superintendent's gonna have to work with the town council, because they're the one that has the final say on the budget. And that wasn't really written in here, so I don't know what type of language we would need, but ought to be at least a heads up for the job description that they're gonna have to work very closely with the town council.
And that is a good suggestion, actually.
That's the only thing that I found out through this, all of this, I thought was very well written and done, so.
And we can take that right from the amendments that are going to go to the town charter, even though
They may not get passed.
they may not get passed. And I just want you to know, I've already spoken with Mr. Turner. He and I would like to ASAP move forward with getting a contract in place. We have he has a memorandum of understanding, I'm trying to think, for us to go ahead and do that, and it's already been approved by Drummond Woodson, even though we started with Mr. Grant. Drummond Woodson says we can just move on it, and my feeling is that we should do that ASAP. I'm not happy with the fact that the town council is proposing a change that says that we will have a contract for 3 years, when in fact we've had a contract for 5 years. 3 years doesn't give you much time to make adjustments and see what's working, what's not working, and I see no reason to shorten that contract. Fact is, we want, we appreciate our issue 87 students that are high with us, and so to have to every 3 years, go through that again and say, yes, that's the way it is. That's my opinion.
All right, so what other changes do people see, with the job description? I'll start, Dave, Debbie, did you guys have anything?
No, I think the only thing that I would mention is what Tony mentioned, them being aware of the way the budget works, because you don't know what their relationship has been in another district working with a budget. Different forms of government in different towns handle the budget differently. So.
And we're actually kind of different than almost,
Right.
I'd just be guessing, but probably 85% of the towns are different than us.
Correct.
I agree with what Tony,
No.
No, go ahead, yeah.
I do agree with what Tony said, whether or not it's, in the language of the charter, just making mention that we'll work collaboratively with the town council, or the town manager for the budget preparation.
As referenced in the town charter, I like that. Yep.
And then,
Keeping it that simple, because it could change in the charter, right? And then we'd have to update our job description. Collaboration with
yeah,
the town. What was the first part that you said?
that the school board, that the superintendent would work collaboratively with budget preparation with the town manager.
As referenced in the town charter. Maybe even something that simple, Jody, because the town charter lays it out.
And,
Is it a budget prep, or you just said budget prep?
well, they're basically just gonna have a discussion and, I don't know, what are your thoughts?
Just to give them a heads up, somebody that moves in here ought to know how the system works. I mean, they're gonna have to deal with the town council, Jamie, and probably even the, Mr., finance guy over the Chalmers, Mr. Chalmers. They're gonna have to, work with him too.
Collaboratively work with the, as referenced in the town charter.
That's simple enough. And,
So we have to understand how the budget process works. And I just wanna make sure that it somewhat lines up with, the job description will line up with what the evaluation process is. I see some of the other schools, examples they have, kind of outlined, they use, so their evaluation as the job description, so our goals match.
Good idea. What section which job description were you looking at from the other?
I believe it was Gorham. A, B, C, and don't quote me on that just perfectly, but I was, when I was briefly looking at home earlier, that's what I thought of the job description. I would match what our
having something about the communication. What else, David?
I think, I also just looked at, municipal board management, they have a good kind of outline too, just to bounce those back and forth. Is this process to just kind of get ideas collaboratively and then put them forward, or what is your goal here?
Really trying to, I mean, I don't know if we'll finalize it all today, but I really would like to have us get it pretty close. What, you're talking about how they lay out, like, communication, yeah.
So when we come, to do evaluation, we'll know that we're hiring somebody based on the things that we're looking for.
Oh, this is our, which one is this?
That wasn't listed there, I just had it from when we did it, met with them, municipal arrangement earlier in April.
Where's the MSMA one, do we have that one, Patty?
Yes, I believe you do. So,
I have a copy, if you want a copy of it.
I have the, national school board, it's not MSA.
This is Auburn's.
From the national school board, right?
That's the code, their code using.
I actually do like how these sample policies, to your point, Haley, list out the different categories.
I think that's a really good idea. Given it's gonna take a little bit of work to rehand it that way, that's a super good idea.
These are outlined as the foundation.
Use theirs at,
Mhm.
yeah.
I've got one question, might be a stumbling block. These are all policies that we've been working on, so we really can't change the policy tonight or tomorrow, the next day. We'll have to go through a first reading, second reading, and whatever, if you want to change something. we'll
These
do
are
this.
job descriptions.
I think the job description
We're not changing the
is
policy,
okay.
just the description
Okay.
of,
Well, we were talking about an evaluation for the
you know,
superintendent.
using that as the outline for the job description,
Okay.
not changing that part.
Just as long as we don't change the policy without going through what we have to
No,
go
no, no,
through legally.
Good catch.
What do you have, Brian?
I'm gonna go with blanket, 'cause I really don't like it.
You don't like ours?
I think it needs some work.
Ours, sure.
Ours, in the sense that when we first start off, the categories that we have, 1 through 12, 1 through 8, reference educational leadership categories. So, for instance, number 1, vision, mission, organizational leadership. Are those the current terms and categories for educational leadership? Because a lot of the research that I've done isn't a whole lot, but what research I have done on organizational leadership, instructional leadership, I believe it was managerial leadership, all fall under principals, not superintendents. So when moving forward, do we want to make sure, or I think we should make sure that the terms we're using, such as organizational leadership in this context, is appropriate for a superintendent. Same as, it wouldn't do me any good to be talking about Bloom's taxonomy in the next superintendent's interview because they know I was a 30-year-old hack, right? So are these categories appropriate? Second of all, paragraph 1 reference is a strategic plan that we don't have.
Actually, do.
You do?
I've been looking on the strategic plan, I do believe you have it, I think it needs to be updated. That should be an ongoing process all the time.
I think
It should be something
I
that's.
think you'll struggle to find. I'd asked Mr. Grant for a strategic plan, he couldn't provide one. If you've got, do you have it?
Not for the school,
No, so,
but I haven't focused on that spot.
I think Jody could probably locate one, but again, if she locates one, I know it's going to be, oh,
Got to be the
what I'm saying is I know there was one. But,
Yes.
you
Right,
know,
so if we've got a job description that's referencing a strategic plan that's hasn't been updated in years, then that needs to be looked at. We don't have a district vision or a current district vision,
you have it there, but it is not current.
and it's obviously referenced in one. And then referenced again in two is your vision, which we don't have, and these become the anchors of the questions, or anchors of this, of that portion of the job description is vision. You know, mission, vision, beliefs. Well, we don't have our vision, and we really haven't outlined our beliefs. Another term in paragraph 2 is calculated risk. We're looking for how do we define calculated risk? In my world, or my old world, saying that calculated risk means a whole lot different than I think is meant in this job description. But if we're going to put in a term like calculated risk, we as a school committee need to provide what that risk, I would call it a risk matrix, what that risk consists of. And we can end up looking pretty foolish during a job interview if we start talking about a calculated risk and we don't have any clue what we're talking about.
I don't believe you can, in this particular job, define calculated risk, because in fact, you do take risks every single day when you're meeting with students, when you're meeting with parents, when you're advising on discipline. I mean, they are risks that a person takes, and, you know, it's
Canceling school on a snow day.
canceling school, that somebody goes.
So that's more of managing risk than taking calculated risk. And I know it sounds semantics, but it's really not. You know, so if you're managing risk versus taking calculated risk, I mean, those are terms that we really need to look at. I've done a proper reference on some of these. And there's a whole section on strategic long-term planning, and we really don't have anything in place. In 5 is strategic and long-term planning. We don't have a strategic plan to even work off of. Number 7 talks heavily into vision again. We don't have a vision.
Yes, we do. It's from 2008. Oh,
Okay.
she found it.
Okay, so we don't have an update.
So clearly we need to update it, but we do have one.
What it actually says is the Hermon School Department encourages the combined efforts of teachers, administrators, parents, and community members to empower all students to acquire the knowledge, skills, values, and attitudes to guide their lives in fulfilling ways and realize their potential in an ever-changing world.
Okay, well, that sounds more like a mission statement than a vision statement, but I don't want to argue those, but it obviously needs to be updated in either way. And then the last portion of it says the responsibilities are representative of the knowledge, skills, and abilities required. And so 1 through 12 or 1 through 11 are supposed to be the KSAs of the job description, but we really haven't. It's my opinion that they don't clearly identify the knowledge, skills, and abilities or attributes that are needed. And then just to kind of update things, I'm not a big diversity, equity, social learner, but none of that is addressed in here. The word equity or diversity isn't in the job description. And these are things, I mean, that was a whole section.
On the Bangor one, like the equal opportunity employer prep.
No, but also the main school management will have a whole section on equity, culture.
I guess I would ask the question, because looking these over, and to Haley's point, like lining up with the evaluation, that's more what the MSMA one does. So, and when you look over the others, that's sort of the format that they are following as well.
Yes.
So we potentially could, to your point, Brian, scratch ours and use this more as a baseline, is what I'm.
That's what I was
Yes.
I've already started going through and looking and seeing what sections,
Is there a copy of it? I have a blank copy, if you want to copy it. I think there is one in the last.
Wait, is that one of the handouts?
It isn't, it was from, before, I just happened to have it in my old, like Eileen had sent it to us initially, yeah.
What I will tell you is something like the Gorhams, they're actually looking at each of their pieces are built on the certification requirements for the superintendent. They're built on, community curriculum.
There's no reference, I mean, the MSMA references community interaction, family interaction. There's quite a few details in there that ours just does not have. And then another piece that you would find in the MSMA, but I think is critical to us, and it's been very important to me, Stephanie, in the charter discussion. There's no comment in here, no reference to RCA 7. And where a major portion of our superintendent is working with RCA 7. And that I think that also needs to be addressed in here somehow, that they will work collaboratively with the superintendent for RCA 7 to ensure a seamless transition of students to the post-secondary education, whatever the term needs to be. But I think that is a subject that also needs to be addressed. It's critical to the job description. And as I was saying to Stephanie earlier, I know, Tony, you might be going, oh, Jesus, you're making my ears.
Oh, no,
no.
no.
I used to be in HR. I used to dabble in HR in a former career. And what I used to do is, my PD would be the questions that I ask at the end of the interview. You just reformat your PD, and you could distinctly tell the person that was prepared for their interview, because they knew that their interview was a PD. Because if we go with what we have, we will find ourselves in another meeting discussing what the next questions will be for the interview. Where if we properly format a position description, we will have the questions for our interview. It's no secret. And that those knowledge, skills, and attributes will already be laid out for us. And will match very closely with MSMA has a lot of what we should be looking for.
I don't have a copy of the MSMA one, but on page 19 of the back packet, the dated back packet, it does reference the attributes that are listed in many of these. So if we looked at these categories and then was a little picky and picked from some of the others, perhaps how they worded that job description, that may be a way for us to start to design that really good.
Is that a print, is that a printer back copy? A copy of it? These?
Mr. Jordan, what confused me, bothered me, drew my attention was when I saw this list of attributes, and then I read our job description.
You're right, they don't.
They used them almost interchangeably, and that organizational leadership, instructional leadership, and managerial leadership are educational leadership terms. It's education and philosophy.
And those are the courses that your superintendent certificate requires, those are the.
And I'm not versed well enough to know whether this is being used correctly. And there's nothing more foolish than having a job description go out where our very are not correct. So this is a 2019 is when it was last updated. Was it old then?
Right.
And are these correct terms for this time? You see the point that I'm trying to make?
I do.
And I don't think anybody here tonight can really say that.
They're accurate, and
Yeah.
I would agree.
And I can't imagine that vision mission has changed much from organizational leadership, but I don't think anticipatory set is used. We're not putting lesson plans.
I would caution you on the vision and mission statement, less is more. That's the mission statement, and you want something that you can actually measure and see if you're doing it. Are you accomplishing those things?
So again, I didn't mean to be the party pooper.
No, I was.
And then kind of the final last thing to ponder is when I think of our knowledge, skills, and attributes, some of those knowledge, skills, and attributes, I think we should take from public comment. You know, they're just not all educational knowledge, skills, and attributes. As a community, we may find a superintendent that has some knowledge in legal actions.
What are you talking about? Like, where would you put that?
Well, they would need to be incorporated into your job description, your knowledge, skills, and attributes
May of what?
of your superintendent. What knowledge do you want the superintendent to have? What specific skills do you want him to carry with him? And then what attributes
I
do
will
you
hand
use?
walk
Yeah,
around.
no, that's good.
But isn't all that laid out in here?
The MSMA does a better job of laying it out. I think we did a lazy job when we just said the responsibilities and representative for knowledge, skills, and attributes required. That is just to comply with the policy that we have that says that we will outline the knowledge, skills, and attributes.
I mean, I think we all agree that there's a huge opportunity for us, to your point of let's get it right. And we're lining a lot of our other policies up with MSMA. So why would we not start, from you guys' point, start with this, line out, add a few things? Does everybody agree with that?
I think what, correct me if I'm wrong, what maybe you're trying to say is to help improve the communication or the feedback that we are hearing from the community, is making sure that we've heard that feedback and making it part of the job description, so that we're making sure we're looking for somebody that meets the goals of communication and,
As appropriate.
transparency, yeah.
Definitely as appropriate. I mean,
Right,
you can't take everything that the
Right, but-
public says that they want the superintendent.
Well, I think the general realizing that the community is part of the role, and sometimes that isn't always shaded to the facilitator communication and the funnel, so to speak. So
Absolutely.
making, yeah, I support that.
So while we wait, for that, the job goal, do we want to start with looking at the MSMA, line it out, and just go from there?
I think so, I think just, we all have copies.
Yeah. The only thing is we could read the job, you know what I mean? Read it if everybody was okay.
Is it, oh, you said it's in this packet, so,
You have it printed out.
oh,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. No, that's all right. That's yeah, do you want to read?
No, not really. I guess tonight, I'm looking at 9 pages of MSMA, that it may be better served for us to, I don't know whether to do it individually or to, put 2 people together, 2 or 3 people together to draft out something, but to try to nut this out tonight and then get public comment to try to weave it in there.
What do you mean for public comment?
Well, we're gonna have focus groups on whether we want to incorporate their certain skills and attributes in a superintendent. I mean, that's a question for group, right? No, you don't want to have their input.
Well-
Okay, but
But it's all to provide leadership, right? You know, to lead, guide, communicate. I guess my question would be, what attributes do you think are missing?
When you were saying focus groups, are you meaning like when the last time we hired a superintendent and we took feedback from the community and wrote it on the board?
Oh, that's gonna happen.
And put that in there.
yeah, I
But
think,
I'm trying to understand if that's what he means, or if do we need that in order to really draft it out?
I don't know, it's a question as much as it was my vision of the way moving forward to write the job description, but it's as much of a question as it is a vision. How do we want to do this? Is really the bigger question. Do we just want to get a job description done as quickly as possible and then put it out to the public for public comment?
It's not that at all. It's, MSMA has done a wonderful sample, and to build from that, to start to solicit feedback, which yes, absolutely, we need to do that. But not for the job description, I guess I would ask why.
I think we probably have received a lot of feedback that we have under our hat that we can pull from. But then also, obviously, if we didn't meet the goal, we can take other here feedback, be open to changing it. Did you get that?
Yes. I'm sure.
Yeah, that we've been given feedback.
Yeah.
Like communication's key.
So we could use those as our outline
responses the way you're looking at them and research that you have here to see if some of that might translate. Then once you have what I think would be at least a really good start on this, then it's more to bring community members in and your staff and that kind of thing, collect information from them and see if it's already covered. If they come up with something that's really good, like, holy cow, we never thought about that, we really need that in it, we add it on. But I think I like the idea of starting with this and pulling language from these areas or from here itself and seeing how much we can go from there.
I guess we're under a time crunch and I'm not looking to rush it, but I guess I would ask, what is it that needs to, I would really challenge, those pages to come out. I would really challenge what is it that's missing. 9 pages is very, very comprehensive.
Yeah, that's probably.
And to Patty's point about less is more, I mean, we could end up with a 20-page job description by the time we added everything. And so this covers everything at a high level, and there's always that caveat, other duties as assigned, and you can never capture everything in a job description. And a job description is high level. So I would ask, what attributes, I really challenge what attributes are missing from this.
And if you could take a few minutes, Stephanie, and have us all go through this, there may be some pieces in here that we feel redundant.
Yeah.
And not, we need all of these.
Right.
I'm not saying we don't, since I haven't read it yet, so I can't say you don't need this. But I see several references, yeah, vision and mission,
On one side.
developing it and following it and modeling it. I mean, how much do you use on that?
We're missing pages 6 and 7, I don't know, it did 1 and 2 twice.
You might have just grabbed 2 pieces at a time that it went through and didn't pull them, so.
Do you wanna give them to me and I'll go?
If you don't mind, please, and then we can start from the beginning.
Sometimes with damp paper, it just sticks
Let's
together.
do it.
Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome.
What does everybody think about the job goals that they have listed? Thank you, Jamie. Really appreciate it.
Here's an extra set here that uses it.
Oh, yes, this is for Jody then. Thank you. Jody can help me. Thank you.
I'm grabbing that, if there's not, so I can tell them right now.
So to your point, Brian, we can certainly go over this, which I honestly think, we could get through a lot of it, or if somebody wanted to try to collaborate with somebody else, tackle it, and then we could look it over at the next school committee meeting. I mean, that really good for everybody else.
it was a try.
Well, we have a working group for next Monday. Those that are available, and
Right, we wouldn't have to approve anything.
we don't approve it, we just, hey, this is what I looked at, this is what.
I don't dare commit to Monday.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying as well, so if there was a couple of people that wanted to, or, you know what I mean, that are drafting it or working on it and then shooting it around as a draft, I don't, is that, yeah, you could like redline stuff and so that we could see what you could change, what you changed.
Yeah, we could do that and turn it into Patty, she could just go over it. Right?
I'd be happy to do whatever
I don't wanna give her
I can find some of it redundant.
So if you see some of that,
We could pare it down to at least 8 pages.
oh, yeah, well,
Good one.
And some of this that I'm looking at, it is our goal for our superintendent to be somebody who trusts their administrators and lets them follow their guidance of their schools, or because the first paragraph is a little micromanaging to me. But it's not that it's wrong, it's just,
which words were you looking at?
lead, guide, and direct every member of the administrative, instructional, and support service teams in setting and achieving. I mean, that is all true and things that we're looking for, but is it too hefty?
Personally, I would take out direct.
Yeah, well, that's the thing I was
Lead
thinking.
guide, and hopefully you've got your people coming with you. When you say direct, it's like I'm the boss and you're
Yeah.
gonna do it this way.
Yeah, there's no autonomy for
I
that.
try to be a little more collaborative than that.
Yeah.
So we just find a date sometime this week, let's go over that. I mean,
All of us.
any of us, I mean, Tony was all brought it up, so, you know, I'm pretty flexible as well, and we could take it on, do your own homework with it, put your own ideas against it, and kind of do a collaborative put together.
I would just caution that if you choose to do that you do 2 at a time, because if you're doing 3 at a time, then it's a meeting, you don't have to invite Jamie. I think it's a great idea, it will move us ahead more quickly. I can't at this point commit to Monday night.
You're not gonna get it in front of the whole committee anyway though, until the school committee meeting.
Yep.
Won't be a special meeting.
And that's, I agree, you know, we're just trying to, if anything, I'm not trying to push and sneak something through, I'm trying to have more of a polished, collaborative group effort with it. So that all of us will be better.
I don't know that it would be a problem if we put on Google Docs where people could redline things or highlight things that they want to add and then share it. Like if 2 of you came up with that and gave
It's a live working document, each person writes their, I was thinking on the side.
Yeah, which brought up another skill that I was thinking of that I wrote on one of my many pieces of paper of, one of the issues we had was that a past superintendent wasn't on the communication side very big in social media. And that's one of the skills that we could somehow weave into the next job description, is that this superintendent has working knowledge of social media. And I'm not talking about MySpace, I'm talking about, you know.
Yeah, but is that the role of the superintendent? Do we really want them being the one posting on social media?
No, but I think it's a skill that they should understand. I mean, it's a modern form of communications now, so all the schools are putting out on social media. If for a superintendent to lead us in the future that has no working.
I mean, yes and no. Potentially our highest paid employees, we want them being the ones we posted on social media.
I want them to understand it.
Sure.
What I will tell you is, Drummond Woodson, one of your recommendations is that if you have, for instance, Facebook pages, they be outgoing messages only, that people cannot respond on it, because if you start getting responses that you don't like, and so you decide to take that person on, that's a big violation.
Is that how all the school principals are running their page?
I don't know that at this point.
So
I don't believe so,
that's-
and I think outgoing messages is fine, so if you wanna keep people informed of what's going on, that's fine, but when you start inviting people to comment or add things to your page, that can
I
lead
think all the
to
principals need to adjust that then.
That's one of the things that should be discussed when going into this. I mean, 20 years ago, I said communication was written oral communication. I think today it is fair to say communication is written oral and social media communication. So I think that's something that needs to be, I'm not saying it needs to be
that's
between.
policy committee.
Yeah, but it's something that should, a nugget that should be woven in there on the communication.
Uses various forms of social media to communicate meetings and pertinent information, which it is, I support the idea. I think that is an avenue that most people use for communication. They won't know to go to the website, dig through and find it. So I think that's important, but I also agree delegating that task to appropriate staff, whatever.
Yep.
So.
I just don't wanna lose a superintendent that is interested in applying for this job because he or she says, I hate Facebook. I don't wanna be on Facebook, I want nothing to do with it. Cause there are a lot of people out there that are like that, so.
Well, it would be
I don't
only,
care if you hate it, you just have to understand it, is all I'm saying.
But you designate it then.
it's under an avenue, not themselves, it's under the school, so it'd be representative only of meetings and
Right.
events and football games and such.
Okay, so what direction did we decide that we're headed? With how we're gonna make changes to this document?
It sounds like you have a couple of people who are willing to get together and start adding and subtracting some of the information here, forwarding it. Poor Jody, who has nothing to do.
Or did
just
you want to use
updating.
the Google Docs instead, sorry to cut you off, did you like that idea?
I like turning it into Jody and Patty myself.
However you do it, you know, some people are comfortable with Google Docs, some people would prefer to pick a hard copy and scribble on it. But yeah, if you get it to us together, we can come back with something for you to look at probably your next school board meeting.
Or the intent from that meeting would be that we'd have a finalized product to be able to post.
Oh, is that your,
So I mean, that's what I think.
So you would approve it and after, without, once, just for clarification, once the red marks have been put on, pieces have been taken out, the proposal is that that document with all of those would come back at the school board meeting, and then it would be approved there without having the opportunity to discuss the
I think we would
changes.
discuss it then.
Right, but they send it back to us before the meeting, so you
Oh,
can
yeah.
read everything and decide, you know.
I think pros and cons to that, I think it eliminates the opportunity for discussion, and I understand meetings and timing, but to be able to discuss that final document after all the changes have been made,
That would be the purpose of doing it at the meeting.
We could have another special meeting on the 29th, but we also have policy and finance that afternoon, so we have to be up.
If it was able to be prepared, lined up with when Eileen was able to speak with us, sure, then we could iron it out all that time, but.
Just for the good of the group, what is the timeline? I mean, can you say
Yeah.
this is what we're doing? That's a question I have.
Well, as I've asked a couple of people, number one, what is your audience? Are you advertising for an interim superintendent, or are you advertising for a superintendent? And if you're advertising for a superintendent, I would say certainly the sooner the better. It's going to be very difficult if somebody is already employed for them to give up their job. Actually, even if you had it ready today, if they're already employed, they're probably going to have to give at least a 30, if not 60-day notice. So take that into consideration.
So then, what is our hire date?
That's up to you.
Well, we have to hire by December first, right?
My plan was to be done by January first.
If we were able to hire by December first, that would be a huge opportunity to be able to have some collaboration.
Correct.
Given that holidays take up a couple weeks of that time, right?
But if somebody has to give a notice to hire, it would have to be
Sooner than later.
like when the hiring process is happening.
So then our final, a vote for hire would be the first week of November. If we start working this back.
Yeah. This definitely has to come before the board, I think, in August. However, I think we have the opportunity to, however, we agree to work on it individually and share it, or to look up, I mean, and then bring somewhat of a rough draft, finalize rough draft for public discussion and a group discussion that we have most of our kinks worked out, and basically gives the opportunity for the community. And if there's not much feedback, can we just go forward with it?
I think you need to make sure that your policies align with your hiring, and you're reviewing some of those. You have done some, it's my understanding that you still have a couple to be looked at. I think you need to make sure that your policies align with what you're trying to do with hiring. With that in mind, I have an email that I would share with you. You'll find my email on one side, and the response to my email on the other side. And I was simply asking, I know what I'm familiar with in the law, but I wanted to find out if in fact I was aware of all that's in the law, or was I missing something, or? I also have a list of all of your required policies, because we certainly do have a lot of policies, and do agree with that. And even though they may not be required, some policies help us not get ourselves in hot water.
Are these ones pertaining to hiring the superintendent though?
No, these are just all the policies that you're required to have. As we're starting to review policies, I thought it would be nice if you know which ones are required and which one we can embed.
I'm sorry, I just want, this hiring of the superintendent is a big task, I just wanna make sure we stay focused on that. So I think that this is good to the policy committee to be able to review, and I believe we already did that last year, and all of these already were covered. But I welcome a second look on that. So I delegate that back to the policy committee to review, to make sure.
I believe you have all of these and then some.
Yeah, I think we do too, just double check that, but. So back to the question of what is our timeline? I think the biggest thing is we have to get the job description approved, and then we have to be able to hear from Eileen about the process really. And then we can go from there.
So then is our timeline to align with the departure of Patty, or is our timeline to be full year? I'm kind of in a jolt here, because when we talked about an interim, it was an interim to give us time for the full process, which I'm completely on board with. If there is a desire for an accelerated process, I'm good with, but we just need to identify that now. And then if there is a desire to just circumvent the process, then there is a line in policy that allows us to do that. But I mean, that's the first 3 questions I've really got in my easy answer.
Circumvent's a tricky word that circumvent the process at all.
So,
We need to be thorough, and being thorough, we'll talk with Eileen, we'll get the job description. We don't know, we're speculating right now of the what if. We don't know if somebody's gonna apply right away. And we're not gonna know that until we get the posting. I understand that we wanna have the timeline of this is exactly how it's gonna work, but our first step is really, like, we just have to stay focused. We have to get the job description done. We have to hear from Eileen the timeframe. We have to post that job description and have us all be comfortable with it. And again, we don't know what we're gonna get for applicants, and we may be very surprised. Now, there's questions of, are we gonna do it nationally, right? And we talked about that. Sure, let's open that up for that, because you never know. Maybe there's somebody with massive experience that wants to move here. That's the purpose of doing that full search, but we're really speculating about a lot of things, and I think we just have to stay focused on what it is we're trying to accomplish, and it's the job description, in my mind. Because you can't even begin to search until you have that. Unless somebody has something different, I'm welcome to hear.
I agree with that goal, and I hear the frustration of knowing we don't have this long wait window, so we feel like we have to hire someone in this tight window, so it's kind of hard to complete the tasks. When he's saying accelerated, I hear what he's saying, but it does feel like we have to get it done because September comes and then we get,
But why though? You know what I mean? We don't even know yet. We don't know. We're speculating that we're not gonna get applications right away and that we're hurrying it, but we are not.
no, but even if we did, it's still that 3-month window. If someone lets them out of their contract, it's tricky on the other end.
We're speculating, and we might have somebody that's experienced, that's not even in a contract. It's just we're speculating about too many things. We're saying that we're accelerating it, when in fact we are not. We're going through the process of what we said we're gonna do.
you may have people who have tons of experience, who have just finished their degree at university. As far as certification is concerned, you may have a half dozen or more people there that are available. I mean, you're right, there are people all over the place that just might see your job description and say, this is just what I'm looking for, that's what I want to do. If it happens to be in November or December, you work with what you've got. If it's a candidate that you want and they're not available until June, you have a way to work with it.
But we don't know, and we can't.
So you don't plan on having a closing date then, or is it published until closed?
I mean, until we have a qualified candidate is what we did last time. I mean, 30 days is a good time frame, perhaps. I don't know. I'd welcome best, and then until we have a qualified candidate, but I just.
Right, if in 30 days you don't have anything that you're really interested in, you don't want to make a mistake, then 30 days or until a qualified candidate is.
I mean, we hired MSMA for a reason, because they have experience in this. They know she's gonna guide us through the process. That next meeting is gonna really be crucial. And once you find out that next meeting, sure, let's tag on that revised job description. I mean, let's try to set a date that 2 weeks from today, we would have a draft, so that potentially then it's being reviewed during that meeting. I mean, does that seem reasonable to everybody, that we could have that? But I just really want us to stay focused, and
The job description needs to be done. If Eileen had indicated she hoped to find some time the week of the 29th, so if we try to meet on the 29th and have this wrapped up, at least if she says I can meet on the 30th, or I can meet on the 1st, then you'll have that piece of it ready to share with her.
Were we also gonna go over, what the process would look like through the packet that you handed out, if deciding, or are you waiting for Eileen for that?
that's what Eileen's gonna go through with us. She's gonna ask us some questions on that.
That's entirely up to you. I brought that simply because this is from MSMA. This was their process 10 years ago.
Do we wanna discuss what our thoughts are about?
I really want us to stay, I mean, I wanna hear what you're saying, but I want us to stay focused mean, if we're gonna start to ask questions,
Well, that says process for superintendent search on there.
My
yeah, I think
response
it's
back,
too much.
is that I think the quality of and the depth of the position description will have a direct result in the quality and depth of the external applicants. And then the timeline in which we hire will have a direct impact on the number of applicants we have. If we do a short hiring process because we intend to hire somebody mid-school year, then we'll have a smaller applicant pool. If we wait until the end of the school year, which was discussed when we originally started this, and waiting until the next hiring season, then we will have a larger applicant pool. Whatever that decision is, I'm fine with it. Let's just make the decision. So we're going with a smaller applicant pool and set a closing date so we can back off of it.
You're making an assumption though, that we're gonna have a small pool, and we don't know that. We do not know that, we're making assumptions. What a blessing that we got Patty here as our interim. We never thought that we would, we just cannot make assumptions that we're gonna get a small pool. I just go back to follow the process, do the job description the way we're talking about, get it posted, let's see what we get. We're gonna know pretty quick. Eileen might know a lot of people. We never know, but we just cannot make an assumption that we're gonna get a smaller applicant pool. I would say, prove it, show me. None of us can do that. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
You never know how many applications you're gonna have.
I think one of the things we were talking about this in April and May was that we want to make sure that we're not rushing it because we've gone through so many in the last few years, 5 years or so, that, you know, our goal is to try to find somebody that's going to be long-term, and so making sure that our foundation of our job description, to your point, is solid, but I also, I want to make sure that we're taking our time and not having a small pool. Whether we do or don't, I just want to make sure that we don't rush the choice to take.
Stephanie, I think we need to rush to a certain extent, because what happens if there is no interim superintendent and our date of January 1st rolls around? I mean, you want this school department to go without a superintendent?
Well, and I agree with you 100%, and that's the thing, like, we're saying that we're rushing and that we're only gonna have a small pool. We have one candidate that is so qualified, and again, we just don't know until we can get it posted. So I would love to hear any feedback about, yes, we're gonna involve the community, ask what attributes they want to have in their superintendent, reaching out to, it's not here in New York anymore, Chelsea, and find out what is it that the teachers union wants to be able to have. And unfortunately, in the past, we haven't gotten a lot of feedback from those, but I would hope that people would.
So it's a personality thing for me right now. It's not between us, it's just me. I know that. So I'm struggling with it. I need a date. And it drives me nuts that I don't have a date. And I'm gonna go crazy unless I don't have a date.
What do you want for a date?
So let's
Give
go.
the man a date.
Give the
I
man
feel
a
like
date.
that's
So,
being genuine.
Can
so,
we give you a no later than
so that's
date?
where I'm going with this,
But
Pat.
it may
I actually have a
actually be
date.
sooner.
I actually have a date.
Okay.
So a no later than that I had for you was, we need to know whether we need a new intro on 7 October.
Oh dear.
So back off on that, we need to know whether we have applicants prior to 7 October.
That's actually a good thought,
And it's a negotiable date for it, just say, give me the darn date.
Sure, by October, you're saying by the October school committee that we would either have a candidate or we'd be meeting that day to be talking about an interim. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I'm very happy with that.
Okay. Is everybody else agree with that?
do we have a candidate?
Or we're doing an interim, we're not rushing it.
Yeah, okay,
We
yeah, I
are
like the
not
idea.
rushing it.
Okay.
I know there are ways to work around.
Yes.
If you find that ideal candidate and they say, I can't come until June, there are ways to address that. And I agree, you don't want to mess this up. It's critically important that you get somebody who's going to be here for a few years. Hopefully, lots of years, but, I mean,
Or longer.
yes, but I mean,
No, I
I'm
agree.
thinking at least 3 years, at least. So, and I would like to see you offer that individual a 3-year contract and work with them. And if in fact it happens to be a novice, but you see the potential is really, really there, then you get a consultant to work with them or a mentor. They have mentors for such people. So I agree, you don't want to rush it. You've got to get it right.
Okay, so I agree with you. I understand
So
where
the
you're coming
7th
from.
of October, is that a Monday, Sunday, or calendar? I think that's a Monday.
I'll turn my phone off, there's making noise in the phone.
7th, yep, that would be by the October meeting.
Yep, so the
That-
closing date being the 7th, no later than the 7th, so we know what we got.
How about
Closing date
you?
of the posting.
Closing date of posting.
No.
I was thinking closing date more like September.
I'm saying no later than, so that we know on the 7th.
No, I would back it up a month and say no later than September, so then October, we would be talking about whether or not we had a candidate for an interim. That would be, it's almost done. That's 3 months, October, November, December, that we would have to be able to work towards an interim. Oh, I'm sorry, I must have misunderstood what you were saying originally. You were saying, Brian, October 7th, to either have a candidate or to decide if we were going the interim route again.
Correct.
Yeah. And so the posting would need to be done by the end of September, I would think, I would back that up.
The posting, yes, I'm thinking closing,
Yeah, you
closing, not posting, but closing.
Or we don't need to necessarily.
No, I'm saying closing the posting,
Yes,
end
closing.
of September.
Okay.
End of September, 1st of October, okay.
September 30th.
Yep.
Closed. That way by the
Insane.
7th, you can look at what you have.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that it's the night of the 7th, we can look at what we've had.
But that means we really need to get this out in August.
Yes.
because
Oh, yes.
We'd like to have it open. I'd like to see it open for.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we should try to have it, my goal would be that we would have it together
In 2
for
weeks.
Yeah,
I said in 2 weeks, so that we are potentially prepared to line up with whenever Eileen's able to do that timeline.
So the 5th, I think, is a regular school committee meeting.
And that would be where it would look to be finalized.
I think that's August 5th.
Because by then, the community, whoever wants to have input, can review it to be able to see it.
I wonder if MSMA still has the feedback that we got from the last community chair.
No, a lot may have changed. I don't know. But Eileen would have, because she ran the session. And that's what I would be looking for her to do, is to lead the session. And then whoever wanted to, she would be one leading that worked really well.
Nope, I got no one. I got a date.
Okay, anything else for today?
No, I mean, I got what I want.
So how are we gonna get our edits to Jody? That was the only thing.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at.
I'm gonna hand it to him.
Okay.
You want me to start a little doc, I can put anyone that wants to bring it in, it's not comfortable with that, I can put comments and then put who they are.
That would be amazing.
That would be great.
Are you able to extract this into a Word document? so
Yeah,
that
I
you
will.
can have-
Yeah, that's not a problem.
That would be great, Jody, if you can man that.
Dunkin' Donuts gift card, nobody ever turns that down.
Yeah.
Anything else?
So this is way into the weeds, so
More?
way, like so far in, and I know it was asked when we were doing the interim, and it was asked and answered, but who is the affirmative action officer for our department?
Cindy Bester.
Cindy, And then at some point, I really think Cindy needs to come in and have her, just whether it's a 10 or 15-minute input. She's our affirmative action person. It's in our policy that we have an affirmative action plan, that is at least discussed prior to interviews. Whether that can conveniently be put in, it could be an email from her that we all read and acknowledge. I just think it's important that we hit all those HR blocks of things that before you interview somebody.
Imagine how old they are.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's those sort of things that, you know, they can really get us if we're not careful about it. So.
Anything else, Diane?
I just have a notes that I'd like to share with you. It's an actual community meeting going on all over the state, Measure What Matters, and there's different dates and locations, and I just wanted you to be aware of it, so that if you wanted to attend, then your location is on the back.
I'm convinced that you like to hand out papers.
No, actually, I don't, but
It
I
reminds
just
me of
want you to be aware of.
Were you a teacher?
Oh, I
Yeah,
was.
so it reminds me of, I love paper, so you might
Well,
know.
I tried to save it, but the thing is, I'm thinking this actually sounds pretty good, and they will have a Bangor meeting on September 11th. Well, if you know about it ahead of time, you can reserve the date.
I move to adjourn at 7:07 PM.
Second.
Do we have other discussion?
Nice
Let's
work.
hear it if we do. I want us to stay focused. Sorry, what else do we have that we want to cover?
I'm good, I got set up, though.
Haley, did you have something else?
It was just last night.
Exactly. All those in favor?